This is our first in-game glimpse of the new HUD, which shows the minimap in the top right corner. We've known that this was going to be a thing since sort of last May/June kind of time. It's a small addition, but it's a good one because obviously knowing where you are is always helpful, and it also shows you that it's night, in case you can't tell from the dark sky. I suppose this might be more useful in some areas, say if you're inside. And it also shows the weapon change system on the HUD. There's 4 options to choose from. You could choose 4 weapons in Episode Duskai, but you could only sort of see them from the actual menu that you went into. You couldn't see them in gameplay because of the automatic weapon change system. There's also another blue bar above the weapon change system, and we'll see what that's about a bit later in the trailer. There's also the fact that you can actually see the HUD outside of battle. In Episode Duskai, the only thing that you could see was the character's health bars until you entered a battle. Now the other things appear to be visible all the time. This is the same kind of thing we've been seeing sort of throughout for Final Fantasy 15. The party members and the AI characters are helping out to move the story in the way that the game kind of wants you to move it. It's just they're helping you in your decision making a little bit. It's nothing new for Final Fantasy 15, but it's nice to see that that's still going and it's a big thing still. This is where they show off some of the stealth mechanics with a cover system, where Noctis is covering and hiding from the big robot thing which is looking for trespassers. This is a stealth system. Maybe there are other parts of the game where you have different controls and that kind of thing for other stuff. Tabata said in the ATR, this is sort of an optional thing, so you can go and decide to infiltrate Niflheim bases if you so wish, but it's not necessarily a big part of the main story. Now we see a bit more of the warp function, which has obviously been a big thing with Final Fantasy 15, and the button configuration has changed. It's now triangle for warping rather than X as it was in Episode Duskai. We don't know whether you're using R1 to lock on your warps or not, we can't see that yet. Presumably it's still the same there. Then we get to see the stealth minigame type thing, and warp and stealth killing, which is part of this. Again, it's only an optional addition, this is just part of this, although we might be seeing it a little bit later. The health bar is changed on the enemies as well. You can now see exactly what it is you're fighting, as well as what level they are. In Episode Duskai, when you fight enemies, you only see their health bars. You don't see kind of, this is this person and he's from this level. So yeah, that's just a small thing. As before, there is the same red bar that appears when you go into battle. The attack and defend options now appear on the HUD, as well as an orange bar, which seems to fill up constantly, and we'll see what that's about a bit later on. But it seems as long as you're in battle, this orange bar fills up all the time. There's no sign yet of the techniques from Episode Duskai. If you remember, where there were 4 different techniques that you could use, and you selected them in a little menu and then activated them with triangle. It's not sure exactly whether these things still even exist in the game. They were quite slow, so maybe they've taken them out to sort of promote the faster paced combat, or maybe they've incorporated them in some other way. When Noctis first goes to attack, you see both the damage you give and the damage you take, with a little number, blue if you're hitting someone and red if you get hit. This is the first actual combat, and it looks really fast and fluid. Certainly compared to episode Duskai, it's a lot more kind of actiony than it was before. Everything's moving a lot faster. They're definitely making steps towards a more action gameplay, perhaps more similar to what it was when it was Versus 13 rather than what it was last year. And it also suggests that they're showing the fast gameplay option, since they announced recently there are 2 battle modes, a slower one and a faster one. This certainly looks like the faster one, and if it isn't, then I want to know what the faster one looks like. We also get to see aerial combos for the first time, known that they've existed for quite a while, but this is the first time we've seen them in action. Additionally, we get to see the return of the weapon changing animation. In Duskai, the weapons just changed without any animation, it just happened. Tabata said they always wanted this to exist, they just didn't really have it working by the time they were releasing the demo. So yeah, this is still a thing with the weapon options appearing around Noctis, and then he picks one and then starts attacking. And here he changes from a sword to a lance type thing, which changes the way that he attacks, as you'd expect. And rather than several attacks, he kind of slams down to the ground, hurting 2 enemies at the same time. The weapon change actually uses up a small amount of MP. Not much, but that's just how it works, so you can't just sit there constantly changing weapons, or you'll run out of MP. Now we see the warping in battle in action here. It was also in episode Duskai, but as you can see, it was a lot slower there. It seems to be moving a lot faster, flowing in with the combat a lot better than it did before. This is a team attack that Noctis does with Ignis called X-Strike. This is similar to some team attacks that we saw in episode Duskai 2.0. They were set up with your party members activating it, as this one seems to be as well, although before they were a lot more kind of long-winded attacks, slower attacks. So I don't know if these things are still going to exist alongside this, or if they've replaced them with this, which is a lot faster thing and allows you to get onto your own normal attacks faster. This is another type of team attack with Ignis, which gives Noctis the opportunity to warp onto his enemy. This is something which you can select yourself. The HUD has changed here. You get options for attacks that you want to do with your team members rather than weapon switching. We don't know exactly how this is activated, how it changes from one to the other, maybe one of the shoulder buttons, we don't know, we'll see in the future. This also depletes the orange bar, so the orange bar is presumably tied up to your team attacks. When Noctis uses this team attack, his orange bar goes down. Noctis warps and attacks the enemy, and the blue bar depletes while he's doing this, which confirms that the blue bar is tied to warping. In episode Duskai, warping was tied to your MP. So it's got its own bar now, it's not just tied to MP as everything else is. Now we see 2 more team attacks, the first of which is with Prompto. Now this is called Flash Bomb, and it's kind of a stunning attack, except it doesn't actually stun them, it kind of distracts them. So it's a sort of pseudo stun attack, and it allows Noctis to attack enemies freely for a short period of time. The Gladiolus attack seems to be a lot long lasting compared to the other 2. The camera kind of moves to him as he does it, and it damages a lot of enemies. It gives off the impression almost that you're turning into Gladiolus, but this is definitely not the case. This is just for the purpose of showing off the team attack that you actually see stuff from Gladiolus's point of view. As far as we are aware, Noctis remains the sole playable character in this game. Here the warp kill option returns. It's unsure exactly how this will work since it seemed to be just a stealth feature, but now it appears here on the attack button. So maybe warp kill is just there if you can kind of target an enemy that's far away who can't defend himself. So for example in this case the person is sort of controlling something, facing the other way, so you can jump up and kill him immediately. And Noctis takes control of one of the weapons that the Niflheim Empire has. You can see some more of the impact that you have on the environment as some of the base and surrounding stuff is destroyed while you're killing people. Warp returns to triangle here, and I'm just going to use this as an opportunity to talk a bit more about the button configuration. They said that the face buttons, i.e. square, X, circle and triangle on the PS4, or A, B, X and Y on the Xbox One. I'm only going to talk about the PS4 version here, by the way. They're now set to the options of attack, defend, warp and jump. In this case, X is presumably jump since it's the only one that hasn't been used. A change before where we had square as attack, so on. Remember in Japan, X and circle are reversed. The English version will probably see attack as X and jump as circle, with block or defend as square and triangle as warp, which is kind of like the Kingdom Hearts configuration, so maybe almost a return to the way that the Versus 13 game would have controlled rather than how it was with Episode Duscae. And here Noctis attacks and is stunned by the big robot thing, and then he's stopped by his weapons. It doesn't really show anything we don't know except that enemies can actually affect you beyond giving you damage. Now break is used for the first time. You can stun the robot and also change the amount of damage that you can do to it. It uses up MP as well. Presumably it can stretch to things other than big things. You can do it on almost anyone, or it's kind of randomly activated. We can't know for sure until we've actually got the game in our hands. And it also increases the damage that can be done and kind of locks them in place, so it's a way for you to get a lot of free damage. We see two different dodges here. There's the one that we knew from Episode Duscae, uses up MP, it still uses up MP here, and then there's also a dodge roll that doesn't. You can get hurt maybe while you're dodging. There's probably different ways or situations where you can use these. It doesn't seem like you equip them from a menu. You can change between them really quickly. Maybe it's more like you hold square to do one and press it to do the other. We can't see for sure right now. However, all we do know is that there are two different dodge options, one which is presumably better but uses up MP, and then another which isn't so effective but doesn't. The left directional button option on the weapon change system has been changed from a kind of larger weapon as it was before to fire. So presumably there's some way that you can equip the magic as an alternative to a weapon, or maybe it just becomes possible in a given situation. And then we see fire, which has been used and talked about quite a lot. It's a wide-reaching area attack that does damage to the environment and enemies, and you can also see that it affects allies, and you can see Prompto losing a tiny bit of health and running desperately away to avoid it. Although for some strange reason, Gladiolus is just standing and strolling around in the middle of the fire. He just seems to be manning it out and going, okay, there's fire here, I don't care. And he doesn't appear to be taking any damage, so I'm guessing there's something they haven't quite completed there.